Welcome to Lesson 2 of Following Jesus. Last week we talked about the who and the why of following Jesus, and our answer was found in nothing less than the gospel. Now this week, I want to define the word following. What does following even mean? And to do so, I want to talk about an illustration from one of my favorite movie series called Star Wars. So in Star Wars, you have this picture of a master and an apprentice. And the masters are called Jedi, or Jedi Masters. And the apprentices are called Padawan learners. And two of my favorite examples of this are Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Master Yoda and Luke Skywalker. And the Padawans do everything with the master so they can learn from them and they can become like them. A real-life example of this is an apprenticeship in the workforce. So think about a plumber, an electrician, a sous chef. In order to do that job, that trade, you have to learn to be an apprentice first and study under a master so that you also can become a master of that trade. And the goal of an apprentice is really simple, actually. The goal is be with your master, learn from your master, and become like your master. Jeremy Treat, a pastor from the Los Angeles area, he talks about following Jesus this way. He says that following Jesus entails being with Jesus, learning from Jesus, and becoming like Jesus. So it's this relationship of a master and apprentice. And in the first century, this is exactly how rabbis were with their disciples. You see, the word disciple, it just means learner, student. It's an apprentice. It's someone who studies underneath their rabbi so that they can become like them. And Jesus, a rabbi, a master, he had 12 disciples, 12 apprentices who were with him all the time. They did everything with him. They traveled, they lodged together, they ate together, they walked together all over the place. And it was this organic learning to be with, learning from, and eventually becoming like Jesus, their master. And for us, we want to do the same things as followers of Jesus, as disciples. We want to prioritize being with Jesus, learning from Jesus, so that we can become like Jesus. So if we're going to become like Jesus, if that's the end goal, we want to be with him, learn from him so we can become like him. He's our master. Who is Jesus? Who are we becoming? And the answer to that question is we are becoming who Jesus has always been, a true child of God. See, Jesus is God the Father's only begotten Son. He is the perfect expression and example of a son who has always walked in perfect fellowship with his Father. Becoming like Jesus is learning to become a true child of God, a son or a daughter. It's an identity of sonship. Think about the gospel message with me again. Jesus became just like us so that we could become just like him. Jesus, he took on human flesh, this frail humanity, but was sinless. And he went to the cross and he died in our place and he rose again with this new body that will live with God forever. And that's what's going to be gifted to us. And you see, everybody who believes in Jesus, the first kind of installment of what we are going to get someday is through the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit of God is also called the Spirit of adoption. The Spirit of God comes to live inside of us when we believe the gospel for the very first time and we're sealed. And the Holy Spirit doesn't only empower us to live for Jesus, but the Holy Spirit reminds us of who we are. We are right now children of God. The New Testament uses language like this all over the place. Language of adoption, language of sonship, language that we're children of God now. And the Apostle John states this beautifully in 1 John chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. He says, "See what kind of love the Father has given to us, that we should be called children of God, and so we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Beloved, we are God's children now, and what we will be has not yet appeared. But we know that when he appears, we shall be like him, because we shall see him as he is. I love this verse. It's so powerful because it shows us that through believing the gospel, we have become sons and daughters of God. But we haven't received what's coming in the future, the full expression of that yet. So we're in this in-between time between Jesus coming the first time and Jesus coming the second time. We are caught in this in-between. And so in this in-between, as followers of Jesus who have the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of adoption, how do we glorify God today? How do we glorify him? And the answer to that question is we must learn to become who we already are. We're already adopted sons and daughters, but now we must learn to live as God's sons and daughters each and every day. And this is why we follow Jesus. We're learning to become who we already are. We're children of God. You know, the greatest commandment in the Bible is what? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. And who's the only one who's done that perfectly? It's Jesus. He's the only one who's ever done that perfectly. And Jesus is the one we are following. He is the one we are becoming like. He's the one we are learning to be with so that we can learn from and we can become like him. And Jesus is the perfect expression, the example of someone who has loved his Father with all of his heart, all of his mind, all of his soul, and all of his strength. And that is what we're learning to do. As children of God, we're learning to love our Father back. And this is what it looks like to follow Jesus.